This is Event Masters. Behind the scenes stories, experiences, and lessons shared by the world's leading event experts. Hosted by Christian Napier.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Event Masters, of behind the scenes stories, experiences, and lessons learned shared by the world's leading major event experts. And I'm your host, Christian Napier. As I said, this is the first time we're doing it, and it really brings together two passions of mine, which are storytelling and events, having been involved in this industry since the year 2000. And it's my honor to welcome our very first guest, the guinea pig who agreed to do this. And I'm so grateful to him, Leonardo Cohen. So Leo, as I call you. But so looking at your bio, just to give the listeners and the viewers a bit of background on you. So you've been in this space, again, for almost as long as I have, 2 decades as a consultant, as a manager, as a leader, operating in the business side of it, the corporate side of it, the sports side of it, and then even public sector in Brazil and also internationally, specializing in planning and delivering large-scale events. You have a lot of expertise in event planning, strategic planning, business planning, workforce management, technology, knowledge management. And I can attest to all of those. I'm reading some words here because I don't want to leave things out, but it's not just on paper. Leo's the real deal. So he started out at the Editora Abril in Portugal, which was a major publishing company, and this is like back in the 1990s. Leo, was that was a ways back, right? And then you became the founder of Editech, and you transformed it into one of the top 10 companies in its field for creative marketing. Your journey started, and we're going to get into details in this a little bit as we get along here a little bit. But your journey in major events really started with Rio 2007, the Pan American Games in Rio de Janeiro. And since then, you've been involved in all kinds of events. 5 Olympic bids. Oh my gosh. 4 Commonwealth Games, 2 FIFA World Cups, 2 SLS World Skateboarding Championships, and a number of other major projects. And now you serve as the managing director of Editech. And you are also, because you don't think you're busy enough, you're also the co-founder and CEO of Block 4 and Matilda Studios. And I'll probably ask you about those a little bit later on. And you're also gearing up for a new venture in Europe, and super excited for you on that. So everybody, let's give a huge warm welcome to our first guest, Leo Cohen. Leo, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Christian. I think you are in a very unique position. Basically, you are one of the few individuals that followed my kind of a startup into the major sports events during the Rio 2007 Pan American Games. When we met, we had the opportunity to work together, and it was quite amazing. I think it was my first major sports event, and I fell in love with it. And I have to say, I think I have a fantastic mentors at the time, including you and Darren Hughes and Jamie Shaw and even Craig McClatchy when you were working at EKS, Event Knowledge Services. And you have been following through almost everything. We have been working together until 2014, 2015, right? We're co-workers. So
Correct.
yeah, it's interesting because I'm not going to be able to lie because you were there and you were managing me above everything, and a great, fantastic mentor. So I would take this opportunity to thank you so much for the journey, for helping me out, and basically being one of the persons, a key person that is responsible for what I am today. So truly honored to be here with you today.
Well, the honor is mine. And, I'd just like to take this opportunity publicly to say that, Leo, you were one of the few genuinely really, really good people in this business, and it is a privilege and an honor for me to know you, and I am grateful for your friendship. Why don't we talk a little bit about, well, you mentioned it here, getting started with the Rio 2007 Pan American Games, but why don't we dive into that a little bit more? Why don't you tell us just how it was that you got involved with the Rio 2000 Pan American Games and you got started on this crazy event journey?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. So my wife Monique, she was hired to work on this project as an HR person and doing uh, helping with planning and doing recruitment. I end up on being on informal events with the team. The Brazilians are of course some of the consultants from abroad, including you and others. Um, and then what I heard on my side, I was not of course involved, not a lot of details, is they were trying to uh, improve the overall relationship between the workforce team at the time where my wife was working, and then EKS was providing major consulting services, and there were other areas on the Pan Am Games that EKS was supporting, and the technology team. So that's what I heard. They were having issues, etc. I was happily working on my boring corporate projects, basically most of the time working from home, doing remote work with clients in the United States and Portugal, etc. And then one day my wife said, "Oh, you need to come to Rio 2007 because Sandro Cabetti, he was was Monique's manager. He wants to talk with you. He wants to get some advice." And I thought, what kind of advice I can do on this kind of project? I have zero experience. So I went there. I sat down into the main reception desk, waiting. Then finally, after almost 1 hour, Sandro called me in, and disclosure was made. I was not there to provide some informal, whatever, recommendations, conversations. He was interested to hiring me to work with them and be a technology person in within the workforce team as opposed to be into the technology team. So it seems they wanted someone to be on the workforce side to better understand and negotiate and discuss with the technology team, especially the what we call a games management system or event management system, depending on the on the terminology, Olympic terminology or FIFA, other sports events technology. So they need someone like this because they were not able to, I think, properly understand or discuss, and everything was very late. So yeah, I ended up accepting the challenge. I was scared scared to death, but I still remember having been hired on the same day. I ended up being hired, and funny enough, it took almost 1 hour for Sandra to speak with me because he was talking to somebody else. There was another candidate that I met on the reception that I have no clue who he was. But anyway, I ended up being hired, and that was basically the beginning of my journey into major sports events.
And just to make sure that we understand the timeline, when you said it was very late, the Pan American Games were delivered in what, July 2007, August 2007 time. So when was it? You just came aboard a few months before
Absolutely,
then?
absolutely. So at that time, I I would say I had no idea what was late or not, and how soon or not we I should be doing or someone should be doing this entire work. But then, of course, later on, as you work with other events, you're absolutely right. I think I got hired, if I'm not wrong, either in February or March 2007 to get everything done for the kickoff of the Pan American Games in June, July, August. So it was absolutely insane. And of course, as soon as I arrived and started working on the same day or next day, then I realized the insanity in the good sense of it of that project, the intense thing. So I was dropped in there, no experience at all. I had to learn, not only learn and understand what is a games management system, what is an assignment tool, a training tool, accreditation system, integration, get together, meet and greet with the technology team. And then, of course, there was a lot of stress between the technology team at Rio 2007 and the workforce team. And I always try to kind of a bridge and being into very good standing with, of course, my own team and the technology. So I also try to be very, very there. But it was intense. It was really, really intense, and everything was really late. So not only my arrival was late, but even systems were not yet ready. I think you might remember some of the issues we had with the training thing and the assignment tool. They were still struggling to get it done. Thanks, we had, of course, a major company behind. It was Atos that was providing the system to Rio 2007. But they were using some new systems at the time, some web-based solutions that were not at that time or not available. So it was quite intense. And on top of all this, I had to manage a team of close to 15 to 20 people. My fantastic team doing assignment, doing all the stuff into the system, having to rush to select, sign volunteers for the project.
Well, you stepped in admirably in a very, very challenging situation. You delivered. I mean, ultimately, the games in Rio were delivered well in 2007. Did you think, well, that was a fun little experiment. Now I'm going to go back to my boring corporate stuff. Or did you think, hey, maybe there may be more opportunities on this event space that are worth pursuing? So how did you, make this? I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but how did you say, hey, I can go back to doing my regular stuff that I've been doing for years very, very well, very successfully. And or I can continue on this event path.
You're absolutely right, Christian. I think I faced what I call today the fantastic roadmap of all major events, major sports events in this case. So you start like this, you go, then you start ramping up on everything, activity, hiring, etc., and then boom, it goes all going down. I have to say, after Rio 2007, I promised myself, oh my gosh, I don't want to be part of any organizing committee because of it was so intense and then so depressive, because you see the demobilization, it has to happen as soon as possible. Every day is money. So you need to fire people, demobilize, tear apart everything. It's like you deconstruct everything almost in record time. So it was very, very depressing to see, and everybody goes, etc. So I think at that time I said, I would love to maybe do it again. I'd love to be part of it, this adventure, those events. I don't think it was a conscious decision per se, because as opposed to, of course, many professionals there that I met and that I learned a lot with them, I was not someone from this world, this ecosystem, these major sports events. I think in the end, I was lucky enough to have been working very close with Event Knowledge Service EKS and you and the team. Then opportunities were presented that would allow me to kind of follow this path. So I remember you guys were working on a few projects at the time. There was the wrapping up Doha 2006, the Asian Games. I remember people flying in and out in there. There was the Delhi 2010 Commonwealth Games. There was the major new kid on the block for AKS, and then there was this conversation. Oh, you know what? We're hiring people maybe to go there, and for whatever reason that I really don't know, I was in the end being selected to help support this event, and that was the true start of the journey, because it could have ended there, and I had no way. I had no knowledge, no connections, no event experience. But then you guys gave me the opportunity to keep moving on.
So, Leo, you had a lot of opportunities to work in various places around the world doing these events. So you start out in Brazil, they're your home country, but then you're going to places like India, you're going to places like Glasgow, Scotland, the UK. you're going to places like Doha in the Middle East. And I'm curious, how do you adjust to all of these different places? Istanbul, there's all these different places that you're working. And did you ever feel like, hey, man, I'm a fish out of water. I'm in a totally foreign land where people are speaking different languages. The culture is very different. The food is very different. The leadership styles, the organizing committees, they're very different. So I'm curious if you've got any interesting story. I know you have many interesting stories, but do you have any stories that you want to share, about some of these really different, incredible places where you had opportunity and still have opportunity to work in this crazy career?
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a good assessment. My first deployment outside of Brazil for sports events was in New Delhi in India. Um, it was very unique for me, my first time in India. I guess because of my previous personal experiences living abroad. So I lived for 12 years, 10 to 12 years in Portugal, United States, etc. That, of course, helped a little bit, uh, being more receptive to understand, of course, the differences, etc. Of course, India is not Brazil, India is not Portugal, India is not the United States or any other location I have been. Um, so it's always very challenging, and I think in the end, it's all about how well you are able to not only support yourself into those locations, but also the overall environment. In my particular case, because I was not working for the Delhi 2010 organizing committee for the Commonwealth Games, I was working as a consultant for. So there was another layer. I think that layer helped because most of the people that was with me there I already knew from the Rio 2007 project, and of course I met many other fantastic people. So I think the first one was I think the most difficult one, and then I guess we just go with the flow. Um, there are sometimes what I'm trying to say is not that you are gonna be okay and perfectly fine. It's certainly everywhere. I worked in India. I worked in Poland. I worked in Scotland. I worked in Hungary, in Turkey, at Switzerland, and many other locations in recently in Doha in Qatar. So it's really not easy. It's really not easy. There are a lot of challenges and funny stories as well. There are many funny things. I remember in Istanbul, that was one of the most fantastic projects ever. So it was Istanbul 2020 Olympic bid. Of course, we were surrounded by fantastic Turkish co-workers and colleagues and friends, I have to say, and a lot of them, of course, are Muslims. So the beauty about Istanbul and people there is I was able to. So of course there was Ramadan and celebration of Ramadan that we all respect, but there was always an opportunity for me to make little jokes with them. For example, sitting with my Turkish colleagues, and of course they were doing you're doing the fasting, and then from time to time was getting a little bottle of water and open. Oh, this is so delicious, so tasteful. Do you want this? And they're laughing, etc., etc. But then in Doha, Qatar, it's different. In Doha, Qatar, and you need to be always very careful to respect, of course, different cultures, not to sound. And of course, we're close to those colleagues in Istanbul. In Doha, Qatar was different environment. There were different rules, and there, if you're not very close with the person, it's really very disrespectful to the point of during Ramadan, if you're doing a video conference or of course on a meeting, you should really never eat or drink in front of them. They're doing the fasting, so you need to be careful. So I think being able to understand and respect the differences and behave properly, it's key when working with different locations.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and it reminds me of the good old story when I was in Doha 2006, and Marios Vortsis walked out of a gym with a water bottle near the end of Ramadan, or the end of the day, I should say. I'll let him tell that story. And it's true. And sometimes, I was guilty of inadvertently being disrespectful. I didn't mean to. I remember one time, someone who had worked Sydney and Salt Lake came to work for Doha, and I was so excited to see her. I gave her a hug, and I was reminded that that's not what you do here.
Yeah.
And I, I had let my guard. I forgot, and I felt really, really bad that I had acted disrespectfully. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up. When it comes to Istanbul, you got to tell the story of you and. Oh no, it was Kai. That was Kaio's story. Kaio and Pranav in the taxi, right? That was Kaio's story in the taxi. I'll ask Kaio to share that one. I am curious, though. You mentioned, sometimes you were there with a firm like EKS Consulting. Sometimes you were hired directly by the organizing committee. And I am curious to get your take on, things that you did after hours or off the clock to help build the team. Sometimes you're there, maybe in Doha, in Qatar, there are a lot of Brazilians working, and there are things that you can do together. Other times, maybe you're in Istanbul and you're doing a lot of things with the locals, our Turkish friends. So were there certain things or certain stories or experiences you remember of doing things off the clock, after hours, on the weekends, excursions with others that you worked with?
Yes, that's correct. I think, and those two examples are interesting because they were long projects, as to say, the project in Turkey. So for you, for example, I believe the Istanbul 2020 started in 2011, maybe even some preparations before about proposing, overall discussions, and then of course there was boots on the ground in 2011 and 12 all the way to 13 when the IOC made the final decision in Buenos Aires. I got deployed in 2012 in Istanbul, and I was almost 2 years of very, very intense project. And I remember we were there most of the time on the ground. It was very intense. We had to be there with some breaks, like flying back in my case to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And then Doha, Qatar is the same. So there was a certain point in time I was finally deployed on the ground in the 2021, all the way to a few months ago. So there are very similarities on the overall time frame on the ground. And for me, sometimes you really need some time to get to know people, get more comfortable with them, and then create your own professional relationship, where sometimes it's only a professional relationship, and of course a professional plus personal relationship. In Istanbul, it was interesting because I was deployed as a consultant through EKS, and we had not only EKS personnel on the ground, and I would say the majority of them I already knew or heard about, plus the fantastic Turkish team. The Turkish team was absolutely fantastic. I keep saying everywhere I go, they were absolutely fantastic. I would recommend all of them to work into anything, anywhere in the planet, because they were super nice. And yes, they were very supportive, not only during the normal work time, but also doing activities, from going, organizing, running the Istanbul Marathon, traveling. I ended up traveling with some of my colleagues to what was the I'm gonna render. Anyway, we did travel. We did a lot of stuff, lunch, dinners, weekend events. So it's really, really, really fantastic. Not only with our own EKS team, but also with with the Turkish team. In Doha was almost the same. Doha is quite unique because the amount of foreigners there is really, really huge. There are many Brazilians there, a lot of Brazilians, but I ended up, I guess, doing more stuff with the non Brazilians. I had one Brazilian, I think Gianni. Gianni was, I think, the only Brazilian on my team everyone else. I had the Egyptians, the Lebanese, the Syrians, everywhere. And it was just fantastic. So it was a fantastic team over there, and it was nice to be with them. And because of my father's Egyptian heritage, he's Egyptian, originally from Egypt. So it was always easy for me to blend and talk to the people from the Middle East, because they would see, okay, my father's from Egypt, so I'm in the end I'm Egyptian, etc. But I did great friends, and in Doha, Qatar, we did a lot of stuff, a lot of activities, even more than in Istanbul, and it's important. It's quite important to do that.
So, if you look back at your more than 15 years now, since you started in Rio 2007, you've done a lot of things, you've accomplished a lot, but what would you consider to be your proudest achievement?
Three things, three of them. I don't know how I can position them. The first one was in Istanbul. The work we did, and particularly one item that we delivered, and when we say we, I mean you and myself, of course, others, was the mixed reality interface tabletop system. That fantastic, insane thing with the tangible objects on the desk, and immersive thing, 3D, etc., etc. Especially because in the end it was really successful. The way we were able to, or the Istanbul 2020 team, of course, to demonstrate and explain the overall master plan of the project, but also because it was really cutting edge technology. And last but not least, because besides I think nobody believed that thing would work. They all are, no, let's use this or that. But we believe, we followed through, and we got it done. The second moment was, and that was really tough, during the EKS rebranding. The EKS rebranding was a project led by you, and I was supporting. And it was, in the end, when it was done, I was like, oh my gosh, we made it. Because of course we are not branding creative people per se, but it was evident that we were able to lead the project with fantastic work by Dupla Design in Brazil, Ney and Claudia and the entire team, and convincing I think that was the most difficult thing, to get Craig McClatchy, the CEO of EKS, to let it go. The branding that we all loved and it was done in the past, and to get the new one was quite interesting. And it was a total different approach. I think you remember. I think it was so modern. Even ourselves are like, oh my gosh, Craig will never get this approved. And we made it, and he approved. And I think last but not least, in Doha, so more recently in Doha, when I was about to join the team on the ground, I I got a call from my managers, Theodore Babarutzis, and Flavia Pontes, the volunteer manager. We're discussing deployment. Oh, we have some news for you. So yeah, oh yeah. Unfortunately, one of our team members resigned. I said, oh, that's bad. And this was in January 2022, so less than 1 year until event time. And the person in question was, of course, a major team member responsible for the workforce management system. I was doing a paid staff, workforce systems and support, and workforce planning with Marius Hortzis. He was my boss over there when I was working at that time. And then the thing was like, oh, do you think you can replace the person? Well, I'm not gonna replace. I think people are not replaceable. But yeah, okay, I'll do my best. And then, like a Steve Jobs moment. Oh, and one one more thing. So what? Yeah, another person resigned. I said, oh, what? Yeah, and that was the systems person doing the entire stack of all the development integrations between all the event management systems that FIFA was doing in Doha. And the reasons they're still deciding on the stack of applications. So many things were custom developed or procured at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I thought and I scratched my nose on the video conference. Okay, I think I can do it. So in the end, it went extremely well. Not only because of me, but I think mostly because of the fantastic team I had there. And we also had a great opportunity to do innovation things over there that are not usually something you can do on those events. But FIFA was going through a very special moment about selecting new systems and tools. And I think we took the opportunity in a good way to test things on the ground to better manage volunteers and provide engagement for them. And it worked very, very well. And then the team there was very, very happy, very supportive. And for me, I think that's the most important thing, that people are helping, are delivering the best. And in the end, yeah. So I think those are the three. There are many other things, of course, in between, but I think I would highlight those three.
So I just have to say, congratulations on your many successes. I know those are three of many that I have witnessed and been a part of with you. And as you have mentioned on multiple occasions, none of that stuff was easy. Like even starting back from the Rio 2007 days, those were challenging. And I would say every project that you've probably been on has had its own set of challenges. And so as you look back over your career and events up to this point, what would you consider to be the biggest challenge that you faced?
Biggest challenge that I faced and that I consider as a failure was definitely the FIFA World Cup in Brazil 2014. I was not able to deliver to go all the way through the project until 2014. I left the project in 2012, and so I was with EKS when I joined the 2014 project. I was kind of let go on a temporary basis for the project, and then I would kind of come back to EKS. That return ended up happening in 2012, and that's exactly why I got deployed in Istanbul for the Istanbul 2020 bid. It was a very challenging situation, not because of technological issues. I think that was okay. Yes, it's again. I was a general manager of technology information management for the 2014 project, and it's not easy at all. Even with all the support, all the experience from many stakeholders from FIFA at the time, from Match and Match IT, there's still many things to do. But the personal relationships, that was what killed me. I was not able to properly manage those relationships. Even that sometimes it's not only about what you do, but about what you do jointly with others. And it reached a point that was not sustainable. So I left, and I left not in very good standing. I left with people with issues with me, not happy, etc., and vice versa. Um, Funny enough, ironically enough, this there was a pause about those relations for almost 10 years when I finally got into the Qatar 2022 project, and then I got to be again with the same of the people from the past. It was quite intense in the very beginning. We were struggling, and there were issues. But in the end, I'm very, very, very happy that all those differences were set aside. I'm not saying we're now best buddies, best whatever, but I think we resolve the situation in a way that I think it's appropriate, and and to the point that we even go and we're playing paddle together in Doha, Qatar. So I'm very happy, but it was very difficult. It was very difficult, especially with the feeling that things were not properly closed. There was no closure. It was this thing and this situation, and then a lot of people, common people. So it was very uncomfortable. So I think that was the biggest challenge, and it took 10 years, 10 years to get it resolved. So that's my recommendation, and I keep telling people, don't leave those things. Don't leave those things behind. It will come back. It will definitely bite you. Whatever. It's a professional thing. Don't get things, if possible, sorted out.
Well, that kind of leads me into my last set of questions here. Uh, you just gave some what I think is some really sage advice, really good advice to people, no matter where they are in their career. But if there's someone who is just thinking about getting started out in events, there may be an opportunity. There's an event that's coming in their hometown, and they're thinking about getting involved, and they're thinking about potentially pursuing events as a career. What would your advice be to them?
First of all, I think we definitely need to love what we do. Doing major events, in this case, major sports events, it's not for everyone. There are a lot of people that yes, they go. There's an opportunity, usually because it's something local. So I really don't see many people on its first ever assignment, a Brazilian that just got hired to be all the way to Doha, Qatar, doing this. Usually, I don't think this happens. So it happens locally. Um, and sometimes what happens, the person do one event, this is it, and then go back to a normal, let's say, a corporate world. So first of all, try to identify if this is something that you really love doing, because it's quite unique. Again, it's quite, remember in the beginning, the curve, the graph of death, it goes and then boom, it dies. So this is not for someone, especially because of course it's a temporary thing. So what is this person going to do? Is this person going to adjust, adapt, excel, shy, and have opportunities to keep going, or we'll say get scared and go back to a normal medium to long term job? I think that's the first answer. If the person loves it, go ahead, try to try to improve yourself, try to be with the best, try to identify who are the best people, try to learn, be humble. I'm always humble, I keep saying. My last big project in Doha, Qatar, if not by my team, I would never be able to deliver that project. It was a fantastic team. I think one of the best, one of the best. Those are the ones I would bring them with any project. I know they will be able to do any chance. They are now, and the proof of this, they are all now moving on into different projects. Most of them into major sports projects. What is for me is not a surprise. But um, try to learn, try to go above and beyond. We keep we keep saying this, the above and beyond. I think that's from I think it was the Krakow 2022 bid. There's the EKS motto, above and beyond. Um, yeah. Anyway, I think the biggest thing is to feel if it's something for you. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Some people might need a more stable thing. I'm not able to keep going into this. And even myself, again, doing after 2007, I promised myself I'll never do this again. As EKS, I was never doing that because it was a constant flow of projects. I was not really affected by Istanbul closing down, Krakow closing down, Commonwealth Games, Delhi, Glasgow, etc., because there was constant different projects. But then in 2014 for the World Cup, and then in Doha, Qatar, the same feeling occurred again. But I think I was a bit better prepared.
All right. Two last questions here. Well, I don't know. I could throw. I'm going to give one last question, and I'm going to have a bonus question. It might surprise you. So here's one that was on our list of questions that we had in the email and stuff before, and that's, if you had a chance to do it all over again, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Definitely, if I could redo it again, 2014, the World Cup in Brazil, 2014, because that was a unique opportunity I had to, on a very harsh and difficult environment, because there were issues, and they were not issues that I created. They were already there, about different teams, different leaderships there struggling. I lost the opportunity to really understand how to not take sides, trying to, and let me steal our one of our taglines for Istanbul 2020: bridge together. I massively failed to bridge together. I burned the bridges. Others burned bridges. So relationships are absolutely key. There's no way, absolutely no way you can proceed into anything without that. So I would definitely redo if I had the opportunity. Yeah, but maybe if I did well, I would probably miss the opportunity to do the Istanbul 2020 bid because I would locked into that project until 2014. I would have lost Krakow 2022, Istanbul 2020, and many other Glasgow 2014. So sometimes we don't know. Sometimes those things happens, and that's another recommendation. Believe on you. If something really bad, really not nice happens, it always has a reason. It always has a reason. You will see. One day you understand. I think now I understand. I had to go through that experience to be able to be a better manager, a better professional, a better everything. And I'm very thankful for that event. But I'll definitely redo that.
All right. My final question for you, Leo, and I appreciate you so much because you very, very patiently answered so many of my questions. But this one is a bit of a surprise one because I didn't have an list of questions. And it's really what I call, it's about the goosebump moment. It's that moment in your career where uh, anytime you think about that, when you reflect on it, it just makes you feel really good inside, So it could be anything. And for me, I've had several of those goosebump moments from seeing Olympic rings on the mountain in Salt Lake City during the 2002 games, all lit up and beautiful, to going to Switzerland for the first time and seeing the French Alps across the lake from Lake Geneva, to uh, walking on the beach in the morning in Rio. There's so many of these moments that just are very heartwarming for me. And I'm curious, in your experience, as you reflect back on your long career, are there one or two moments that really stand out for you as quote unquote goosebump moments, where anytime you think about those moments, it just makes you feel really good inside?
Yes, one is still very, very fresh in my memory. It's not related to um, any anything related to the events itself, the events per se, or anything that I usually do, like going for a run or gym, etc. It was in Doha, Qatar, when after my opinion, very successful World Cup, we had this team meeting, and when I thought about that was ending, um, I almost was teared apart, uh, trying to say to my team how great they were, how fantastic, and how I would miss them. Was a very, very, very emotional thing, and I was kind of a surprise because I was not expecting myself to be emotional about this, about talking to my colleagues, my team, etc. Um, as opposed to going to the opening match of the World Cup or going to an Olympic opening ceremony. Those were nice things, or an opening ceremony for the Rio 2007 as well, or Delhi 2010. Many of those ceremonies that I watched. But I think um, for me, the individuals are the most precious things, and everything else is a sub product of the relationship, the bond. And I think it was really, really sad and emotional because I don't know. I had no idea when I was going to see them again or work with them again. So I think that's one of those moments, and every time I remember that, I really still get emotional. Um, the second one, the second one was definitely getting a call when I got the call from Jamie and Darren from EKS saying that, oh, um, yeah, how are you doing? So how how do you feel? How do you feel going for Delhi? And that thing was dragging for so long because you know how those things are. There are contracts, there are things, etc., etc. So I thought they were joking, and I said, "Yeah, of course. Why not? Why maybe next week?" And then Jamie said, no, well, not next week, but the other week. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's not joking, she's serious. And at that exactly day, I accepted an offer for a work in a company in Rio. And I was like, oh my gosh, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? So, but the feeling about people calling you and giving you, of course, say, hey, you were selected, get your things, get our things together. You were going to dispatch you. And for me, it was really expecting, because it would be and it was, of course, a fantastic experience going to India, work on a total different environment. And when I remember this, it was, yeah, it was cool. It was really, really cool.
All right. Well, Leo, you've done amazing things in this event space, and I know there's more to come. I mentioned at the beginning, as we were going through your bio here, you've also got other amazing things going on. Block 4, Matilda Studios, new things happening in Europe. So why don't you give us an update on some of the other cool stuff that you're working on?
That's true. And I think it's interesting to see. I think, again, going back to do things that you love. I love doing major sports events so much that I got addicted. So I want to do, I will do, I'll keep doing. Even that, yes, there are other projects. I don't think I'll be able to keep doing sports events for the next, I don't know, maybe 30 years. I'm going to be on a wheelchair, very old, but anyway, I'll do for as long as I can, for as long as people still need. Block 4 is one of those initiatives laying down the future long term. So Block 4 is we call that as a fun tech thing. So we use technology, blockchain, Web3, digital collectibles, NFTs to create digital experiences based on this. And Matilda Studios, named after my dog Matilda, it's a Scottish Terrier, is a Web3 gaming company. So we do games that are also Web3, and usually licensing existing titles and converting them into the Web3 and blockchain ecosystem.
Well, and then you've got Editech still going as well, and then you've got future adventures on more events coming up, and so it sounds to me like things are just going fantastic for you, Leo, and congratulations on your continued success. And I guess to wrap it up, if people want to learn more about the amazing things that you're doing, or if they want to connect with you in any way, what's the best way for people to reach out and contact you?
I would say, I think LinkedIn might be the easiest way. I'll be more than happy, of course, to answer any questions, whatever they want to do about experience events. And freely reach me out on LinkedIn. Just look for my profile, Leonardo Cohen. I don't think there are many, but then if you look, when you see the profile, you're gonna see the World Cup in Doha, EKS, a World Cup in Brazil. That's me.
All right, fantastic. Well, Leo, thank you so much for your time, being so generous with us today, and also being the guinea pig for the first episode of Event Masters. Thank you so much for joining me, and listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like and subscribe to our humble podcast, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thank you, Christian. An honor to be here, and very happy to be the first and maybe last guinea pig. And I hope I passed the test. I hope people enjoying the conversation. I hope I can contribute to the fantastic project we're going to be doing. And let it be all the other fantastic people that you'll be talking to.